Steve Schmidt, who was one of John McCain's major advisors for his presidential campaign, has put out a screed attacking the McCain family. Story about lying, public lying, is a story about Senator John McCain's lying and the damage it has done to many people, including mine. It is a story about my lying because ultimately John McCain's lie became mine. Over time, that lie has become heavier as I've been abused by the family of the man I worked for as a volunteer. The burden of carrying this lie while being attacked for 14 consecutive years by the bully Meghan McCain has finally reached its end for me. All right, this is fresh hogwatch, man. Let them fight. Does she have like an unnecessary H in her name? Okay, she doesn't. Hogwatch, Steve Schmidt versus Meghan McCain. Oh, fuck, this is funny. This is funny. Okay, ready? Let's keep going. This lie is Senator John McCain's lie. It is his family's burden to carry, not mine. Let us start at the beginning. Senator John McCain turned a blind eye to the dealings of his top advisor, Rick Davis, who was making millions of dollars with his partner, Paul Manafort. Manafort was advancing the interests of the Russian Federation in Ukraine and across the Eastern Europe. They worked for the Putin puppet Viktor Yanukovych and Russian oligarch Oleg Derpeska. They advanced Russian interests from the Maidan to Montenegro. John McCain spent his 70th birthday with Oleg Derpeska and Rick Davis on a Russian yacht at anchor in Montenegro. Why would Senator John McCain tolerate such behavior? The answer can be found in this New York Times article from February 21st, 2008, written by Jim Rutenberg, Marilyn W. Thompson, David D. Kirkpatrick, and Stephen Labatten. I had the opportunity to privately apologize to Jim Rutenberg several years ago. Before continuing, I'd like to apologize to the journalists whose bylines appear on the story. Their credibility, integrity, and professionalism were unfairly attacked by the McCain campaign of which I was a part of. I got it wrong. Those journalists, like many others, were also victims of this lie. Now, chat, do you think this is a one-time thing that only, they're not doing this on behalf of other oligarchs, say the Koch brothers or the Mercer family or the Clintons or any other of the oligarchs we have in our society? You think they stopped? They just did it the one time? You think they just did it the one time? What do you think? Immediately following the story's publication, John and Cindy McCain both lied to the American people at a news conference that I prepared for them on that same day. Both denied the story to me personally, as did the lobbyists at the center of the story. They also lied to the American people. You see, when I was 36 years old, I did not understand the difference between integrity and loyalty. What? You're 36. You're not a kid. What are you talking about, dude? When I was 36, I was still a baby, practically. Before I met John McCain, I would have answered that they were indistinguishable from one another. John McCain taught me a hard lesson about the difference between the two. Are you fucking stupid? Rhetorical. When Senator John McCain called and asked for my help as his front-running presidential campaign was on a path to failure, I agreed and architected the strategy that resurrected his aspirations for success as a presidential contender. I left my young family behind for months at a time in service of the cause of John McCain. I did this because my intense respect for his courage, honor, and integrity, which he just said he didn't have. By the way, this isn't the first fucking scandal McCain was a part of. He was a Keating 5 member. He was already caught before. What the fuck are you talking about? The Keating 5 were five U.S. senators accused of corruption in 1989. The 5 senators, Alan Cranston, Dennis DeConkey, John Glenn, John McCain, and Donald W. Regal Jr. were accused of improperly intervening on behalf of Charles H. Keating Jr., chairman of the Lincoln Savings and Loan Association, which was the target of a regulatory investigation by the Federal Home Loan Bank Board. The Federal Home Loan Bank Board subsequently backed off taking action against Lincoln. The substantial political contributions, Lincoln Savings and Loan collapsed in 1989 at the cost of $3.4 billion to the federal government. 23,000 Lincoln bondholders were defrauded and many investors lost their life savings. The substantial political contributions Keating made to each of the senators, totaling $1.3 million, attracted considerable public and media attention. So he was already caught. Multiple times being a corrupt piece of shit. I guess John McCain just keeps getting free shots. This is what he's doing now. Yeah, I tweeted about this. Why is why is Meghan McCain putting her book at that public toilet? Why would you put your book on the ground at a public toilet? That's gross. By the way, chat, if you were looking for a unisex toilet in at the National Naval Academy, this is the location. Need something to wipe your ass with. Oh, so her book is made out of 2-ply. I didn't know. Well, thanks for helping me. Anyway, for 14 years, I remained silent because I didn't want to do anything to compromise John McCain's honor. His honor was compromised when he was corrupt, not when it was uncovered. You fucking idiot! Do these conservatives not know what... They don't know what words mean. He still doesn't know what honor means. Honor doesn't mean when you get caught, you fucking dipshit. That's your reputation, you dummy. He would be unable to say the same about mine. Senator McCain denied his long relationship with the lobbyist to whom he was credibly accused of providing special favors. Oh, wait a minute. Did he provide lobbyists with special favors? Did Keating 5 John McCain provide special favors to lobbyists who donated to his campaign? I am shocked that there is gambling going on in this establishment. You fucking worthless pieces of shit. After the New York Times story, which accurately detailed that relationship, was attacked and successfully discredited by the campaign under my direction, John McCain told me the truth backstage at an event in Ohio. Understandably, he was very concerned about this potentially campaign-ending issue. He kept saying the campaign is over. I reassured him that it was behind us. However, John McCain was convinced, Steve Schmidt should be in prison! However, John McCain was convinced that it would soon be over. Similar accusations and relationships had ended campaigns in the recent past. In fact, John McCain looked at me and said he did not understand how he could go on with his presidential run by saying, boy, I had a long relationship with her. I was livid and flew home to California. After he obsessively called for days afterwards, I foolishly returned to the campaign trail. For the next several months, there was not a single night that passed that I did not spend hours on the phone with a broken, distraught, profoundly unstable lobbyist. She screamed at me incoherently for hours every night. I became the shock absorber for her rage, anger, and humiliation. I did this to protect John McCain and the campaign. During my final call with the lobbyist, as she heard my young kids crying in the background, she told me she wished they could die so that I could share the depths of pain she felt when John McCain called her a good friend during his news conference denying the relationship. 20 minutes later, John McCain called me panicked. He insisted that I apologize to her or else the campaign would be over. I told John to go fuck himself and yet again, against my better judgment, returned to the campaign trail. By early July 2008, the campaign was in deep trouble, but at that time I was put in charge of everything except the VP search and vetting process, as well as the looming convention. Rick Davis retained authority in those areas. That same month, in a condo in Aspen. Wow, man, it must be nice to be a corrupt piece of fucking garbage. I had to regenerate in my condo. Aspen. I spoke to Cindy McCain privately about the abhorrent abusive behavior of her daughter, Megan. She grew teary-eyed and said, I raised 2 good sons. Both John and Cindy McCain were mortified by her behavior. After Senator McCain was unable to choose Joe Lieberman under a one-term pledge that I proposed due to Lindsey Graham's lack of restraint and discipline to maintain confidentiality, the campaign was left with 2 choices, Mitt Romney and Tim Pawlenty. Unfortunately, neither would change the fundamental dynamics of an election we were losing. That was the context under which I made the call to Rick Davis, suggesting that we consider Sarah Palin. So it was your decision! It was your idea, you fucking idiot! MSNBC loves this guy. Liberals love this guy. I said, and I didn't know much about her, except that she was the most popular governor in America, but that we must fully and completely vet her. Now, Sarah Palin was popular at the time because she wanted to raise taxes on oil companies. Because if you don't know this, Chad, you may not know this if you're not from Alaska. Alaska has a UBI. It's called the Alaska State Dividend, where basically the state of Alaska collects royalties from oil drilling and then sends a check to everybody in Alaska of a few $1,000s every year. So if you're an Alaskan citizen, you get a check, a few $1,000s every year. Nice little bonus, right? In fact, many military officers and service members' career, if they ever spend any time in Alaska, make that their permanent residence and they continue to receive their dividend check no matter where they live. Anywho, Sarah Palin increased it. So what do you know? Shock of shocks, the lady that gave more money to people they liked. Proximate to that time, the lobbyist had called John McCain's Senate chief of staff to say that she called him from the front seat of her parked and running automobile in her closed garage. She wanted to pass along the message that she wanted to say goodbye to John McCain and that she loved him. The chief of staff asked me if he had done the right thing by calling 911. I assured him that he had. So basically, John McCain was fucking this lobbyist. And she wanted to kill herself when he broke up with her. He wanted to pass along the message. The chief of staff asked me if I had done the right thing by calling 911. I assured him that I had. For 14 years, I've been accused of being disloyal for speaking out against Sarah Palin by the people who both failed to vet her and who know what transpired with the lobbyists. I was consumed with trying to figure out what to say and to do when the consequences of John McCain's lying inevitably exploded to public view. Despite these and so many other attacks on me personally, I remained silent. Oh man, you remained silent while you hid up all the crimes you committed for John McCain. What a hero. What a fucking hero, chat. What I was doing with preparing for what was viewed as the certainty of public exposure of this matter and the unraveling of Senator McCain's refusal to confront and speak the truth, Rick Davis was vetting and interviewing Sarah Palin. As has been previously reported, John McCain met with Sarah Palin alone for 2 hours before Sidney, Mark Sattler, and I joined him by stream on their Sedona, Arizona property. Sidney pointed out that by picking Sarah Palin would be a big gamble. Mark Sattler, who told Senator McCain that there were worse things than losing an election, you could lose your reputation. I told him that it was a big risk, but that in my view, unless we took a risk with her, they would certainly lose the election. So in other words, you recommended her, you brought her up, and then you said we had to do it or lose. What? Incredible. John McCain looked at Sidney and said that he wished she hadn't described it that way, closed his fist and pretended to shake imaginary dice before saying, fuck it, let's do it. Earlier that day, Senator McCain had asked me to accompany him to a private meeting with Sarah Palin where he would interview her to be the vice presidential nominee. I said that it would be inappropriate. I told him that this was the first presidential decision. I told him that he alone had to make an assessment as to whether she was ready to take the oath of office on day one and whether she was prepared to be president. He and he alone had to make that decision. What? Wow, he's throwing McCain under the bus when he's dead. Okay, this is even funnier than I thought. This was the biggest mistake I have ever made. The first opportunity I had to discuss a substantive policy issue with her did not take place until we were leaving the Minneapolis convention. Less than 3 minutes for me to absorb the magnitude of the disaster. Should this have happened earlier, the selection of her would never have happened. This is a lapse in John's judgment, not mine. My mistake was leaving John McCain alone in a room with her. When the campaign ended, Sarah Palin lashed out at Nicole Wallace and me. She and her staff smeared us as disloyal leakers who had sabotaged her political genius. As the stories of Sarah Palin's grift and egregious behavior exploded to public view, I asked John McCain to call her and tell her to stop attacking us and blaming us for her failures. He wouldn't. Why? Because he said that if he did, she would attack him. Hey, most dope. Thank you for the tier 1. The bravest man that I ever met turned out to be terrified of the creature that he had created. His refusal to be honest about his mistake of picking her and his unwillingness to confront the furies she unleashed allowed an ember to grow into a conflagration that is foundational to our current catastrophic denial of reality, profound dishonesty of the far right. I spoke out against Sarah Palin and called her selection a mistake because it was. I spoke out against the Tea Party movement because I knew where it could lead. John McCain asked me to stop, and I refused because I promised myself after the campaign that I would never tell a public lie again. Senator McCain tried to ride the Tea Party tiger in the 2010 election. He promised to build the wall. He said so many other things that didn't truly believe because they were politically expedient. So he had no integrity. So he was a honorless, integrityless fraud, is what you're trying to say. John McCain is a fraud. Amazing. I wonder what the liberals on MSNBC would say because he once voted against one bill. Skip to 333.
I've gutted a lot of folks, and I know they truly gutted you.
Well, they don't say anything about John McCain. John McCain's valor, his heroism, his love of country, his perfect love of the country, the fact that, but for 6 months when he first ran for Congress, he spent every hour of his adult life from age 17 when he put on the uniform at Annapolis in service to the American nation.
What a pathetic grifting fuck. I talked to Senator, I was vigorously and dishonestly attacked by Sarah Palin. I was left undefended by John McCain. I talked to Senator John McCain before he passed. There was no unfinished business between us. The public and premeditated announcement that I was being excluded from his funeral was a malicious and cruel act that said much more about the people who orchestrated it than me. It was an act that fundamentally repudiated a central pillar of Senator McCain's life, which was his extraordinary capacity for reconciliation. Whether it was with the Vietnamese anti-war protests or with his political enemies, John McCain always found his way to forgiveness. You mean the people that were right? You mean the people that were in the right and he was the aggressive piece of garbage who was wrong? He managed to forgive the people who were correct? How's that work? John McCain exists in the world between myth and man. I knew the man and I loved him despite his staggering flaws. I always believed that a great nation needs its myths and heroes. This is what every single conservative believes, that they should lie to you because they know better. They have to do a million noble lies because they're better than you. They know better than you, you peasant. You couldn't possibly understand the stakes that John McCain understands. This is why I've been reluctant to respond to the relentless, mean-spirited, and unfounded attacks made over the past 14 years by Meghan McCain. Today, I view loyalty through a prism of duty to my family, country, and the truth. AKA, that's what loyalty is? The truth requires that at long last I speak out. It is not a story that I relish telling, but I must because my continued silence stipulates the validity of untrue allegations and petty slanders. I cannot allow them to see me be abused and bullied by lies. The truth is the only remedy that I know to make Meghan's abuse stop. John McCain was a complicated man. He was an idealist who could be transactional and deeply cynical. That's not what an idealist is! What? Does Steve Schmidt not have a dictionary? Does Steve Schmidt not have a dictionary? This is like the 6th word he has failed to understand the meaning of. What the fuck is he talking about? You're not an idealist if you're transactional and cynical. That means you're a pragmatist at the best. You could say opportunist at the worst. You're not an idealist if you're transactional. What the fuck is he talking about? Okay, let's keep going. He was a mirror who exposed the vanities of so many hangers-on in the media who sought his favor and companionship, as opposed to delivering the scrutiny a powerful politician deserved. He was a hero of the Vietnam War. What? You mean he got shot down and he got captured? Who suffered unimaginable privations and brutality and did not breach his honor? I don't know, not what I heard. He made an affirmative decision to die in captivity rather than come home in disgrace. He was a man who believed in reconciliation. He helped reestablish relations between the United States and Vietnam. So he was shot down attacking a country that was trying to free itself from colonial oppression, and he was able to return home. Amazing. They didn't kill him. He served in the United States Senate for 31 years. His story is complete now. What I've shared does not diminish the great things he did in the same way those great achievements did not shield him from the truth. In the end, John McCain's top political aide made a choice. He made the same choice as Paul Manafort. He wanted to make millions of dollars advancing the strategic interests of Vladimir Putin. Nothing like this should ever happen in the United States. The story of an American corruption in Ukraine is a disgrace, and its part has led to the human disaster in Ukraine. Corruption did not start in the Trump era, but years before. It started the K Street sewer firms, where Roger Stone, Rick Gates, Paul Manafort, and Rick Davis thrived. You mean all the firms at K Street? We should run down K Street with 5 charter buses, make it 50 charter buses, and put every single person on that street inside. This is John McCain.
It's well documented that we have, for quite a long time now, known where the real problem is in the Middle East. And in fact, the president adequately described it as the axis of evil. I guess my question is, how many times do we have to prove that these people are blowing up people now? Never mind if they get a nuclear weapon. When do we send them an airmail message to Tehran?
We literally did that. What? We blow up way more people. We're the only country to use nukes. What are these fucking conservatives talking about? We overthrew their democratically elected leader, Mohammed Mossadegh, for British Petroleum to steal their oil. We put in the Shah, who put in a secret police, anti-democratic, repressive government where they rounded up anybody who protested about the looting of their country. Yeah, that led to a revolution of people who hated that United States, which was eventually taken over by the reactionary element of the country, the nationalist reactionaries. What a surprise. But what are you talking about? We destroyed a thriving democracy, you fucking scum, so we could steal their oil. Well documented, by the way. This is a fact. Iran, we should be apologizing to Iran. We should be sending reparations to Iran. Disgusting. Disgusting.
Boy song, Bomb Iran. Bomb, bomb, bomb. Hey, man.
Why did Senator John McCain choose to ignore this? Because Rick Davis organized the constant chaos of John McCain's life into something that could resemble a soft coherence to people looking in the window to a constantly destabilized environment. It was not in the national security interest of the government of the United States nor the American people. John McCain was human, like all of us, including me. He was flawed. He was a legend, but not a myth. Too much of our political conversation mythologizes fantasies that never existed in the first place. You just said that was important to do. You just said that was important to do. What? Did he read through this? Often commentators will say something to the effect of, if only John McCain were here. He isn't, and he won't be. I would be remiss if I did not directly address some commentary about what I owed the McCain family. I owe the McCain family nothing. I've never taken anything of value from a McCain. I helped Senator John McCain because I believed. I lost my faith in him a long time ago. I've never lost my faith in America, and neither did he. We shared that in common. The John McCain campaign took almost 15 years of my life. Its impact on my life is indescribable. It is over now. I've made it through. It's time to look up and out. It's time to look for new leaders. It is time to move on. You know what you need to do? Shut the fuck up. Retire in shame, you corrupt piece of shit, and take Meghan McCain with you, you scum. You have poor judgment. You have an obligation to like, comment, and subscribe.